Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and today is motor reassembly day for old Cherry Pie. I got a really late start today because I had some family obligations that I had to take care of this morning. So I don't know that I'm going to get this done today, but we're going to give it an effort, and if we don't, we'll finish it up tomorrow morning. So we got our TBI 350 sitting here. It's as clean as it's going to get for now. Once it's all back together, we'll run some motor flush through it, and that'll flush out the last little bit that I wasn't able to scrape and vacuum out. Gonna put a new timing chain on it. We're gonna put a new oil pump on it, and we're going to bolt everything back on. So once we get that done, we'll roll it over there to the paint booth and give it a little spritz of the color that the owner of the vehicle's chosen. And then it'll be ready to go back in the truck when the truck's ready for it to go back in. So while you guys are here and I still got your attention, don't forget to go check out my merch at www.harmongarage.net. Make sure you go check out the truck gathering at www.thetruckgathering.com. Both those links will be in the description. Make sure you go check those out. We're gonna get to work. All right. First thing I'm going to do is replace this timing chain set. I already lined up my dots here. I know you guys probably can't see it, but there's a dimple there and a dimple there in the gears. So number one is at top dead center. Everything's lined up, so I can just bust this off, pull this bottom gear, put my new bottom gear on, put my new top gear and chain back on, and we'll be done. Just getting a little bit more of this gunk out of here while I can. Once again, all this stuff will flush out with that motor flush because it's all loose. So alright. Now I don't know that this is going to work, but I'm going to try it, and considering the last time I did this, I did it with some bolts. I just got this little 2-jaw puller, and end is too small. I don't want to go in there and mess up those threads, so I took one of the tips off my harmonic balancer pulley sets. I'm just going to stick it in there, and hopefully this isn't over tight and it'll break loose pretty easy. Or we'll break this tool, one or the other. Kind of looking like the tool's going to break, but we'll see. Well, it didn't break, but it popped off. Might end up having to make something again like I did last time. Give me a second, I'm going to make this cheap tool a little bit better. Alright, I went and got a little bit of assurance that this isn't going to pop off on me that easy again. So still don't know that it's going to work, but it's got to help anyways. Alright, this is how I got it to come off last time. I got a harmonic balancer puller with some bolts with washers on it. I can hook it through the timing chain gear, tie everything on there, and this worked last time. We'll see if it works again. I figured I'd actually get a jaw puller this time because it would probably work better, but I was wrong. So sure, there's actually a puller for this, but I don't have one. They didn't have one at the store when I went to get one, so make things work. Dang it. Alright, we're just going to hope this little contraption don't explode in my hand. I don't even think it moved. Alright, well, I ended up getting my homemade device here to work again. I just went and got some electrical tape. I got another zip tie on there really tight. And then I got some electrical tape and taped the crap out of it to hold them in the pulley. And then I put another zip tie out here just to kind of help keep them together. And I actually have it moving now. It's going to be really loud, so I'll cut the sound out for you guys, but it's actually coming out now. And just like that, got our gear off. So, just like that, should have been a lot easier, but it wasn't. But it don't matter, we got it now. So, take a rag here, clean this up a little bit. We got our new gear here, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's the dimple in it right there, and there's no dimple on this side, so you're going to want to make sure that that goes that way. I'm going to get a big socket or something that I can put over the top of this and tap it on, and that'll seat that, and then I'll come back and we'll throw the chain on there. Alright, I just went in my box and grabbed a impact socket that's bigger than the crank but small enough to not go over the gear. Not pounding on it or beating the crap out of it or anything. I'm just tapping it just to get it on as far as it needs to go. That's it. You hear the tone change, stops moving. Means you got it seated. We'll get our new top sprocket out here. And I know I'm going to have to turn this crank back a little bit because it turned on me some. But trying to think of how I can turn that without having a bunch of crap on this. There we go. Nope, that ain't gonna work. Alright, well, we'll get it turned. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna look at this. Our dot is gonna be on the outside. We got our dowel pin that's gonna line it up for us. And it's gonna sit just like that. Got our dot facing straight down. Maybe this will work. Oh yeah. Oh, too much. It's about as close as we're going to get it right there. So then I'll pull my top sprocket back off. Hang my chain on it. Get that lined up there. And we'll take our bolt. Alright, I'm just going to run these in. I'm not going to tighten them all the way down. Alright, and then I will go and get a torque wrench. We'll torque those, and then we'll throw our timing cover on. Alright, I got my new seal put in my timing cover. I got my bolts in my cam torqued. Now I'm going to take a little bit of silicone. And you guys know I don't like to use silicone, so I'm not gobbing it on there, but putting just enough on there that it'll hold the gasket in place while I put the cover on. Real thin coat. Alright, I already got my new seal put in my cover. I'm going to go ahead and get this up here, get some bolts in it. I cleaned all these bolts up too. I just didn't think you guys wanted to sit and watch all that, so I just got it done. Alright, got all my bolts started. The gasket stayed in place like I wanted it to. So I'm going to get these tightened up. We'll roll the motor over and then we'll start replacing that oil pump. Okay. Now these pickup screens, they don't come with new ones, so you can buy new ones, but they're not very readily available at the places I go to, so I just go ahead and replace them or clean them out really good. You got one bolt here in the middle of the pump. Get that out. And then, in theory, this should just come off of here. Just like so. We'll get our surface cleaned up good. We'll get our rod cleaned up good. We'll get our screen cleaned up good. And then we'll slap all this back in there. Alright, we got our bolt all cleaned up, got our priming rod all cleaned up, and we got our new clip to hold our priming rod in place. We'll go ahead and put that on. Get that in place. Okay, and there's no gasket that goes between this and the block. It's just metal to metal. Got your two dowel pins that line you up. Stick our bolt in there. We'll torque this down. Pretty sure that's the proper torque specifications. Now, I got our screen all cleaned up. And if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, I'm blabbering on about stuff you already know about me. But when you put these old screens in these new pumps, I got to tap that in a little further, but they never get real tight. And even if you get the brand new screens, or the pickups, with the new pumps, they're never real tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a dead blow hammer and I'm going to tap that in there to where it's flush where it's supposed to be. And then I'm going to drag the welder over here real quick and I'm just going to zap a little bead of weld on there just to hold this so it doesn't fall off. Because if you're going down the road and this pickup screen right here falls off, bye-bye motor. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'll get this gasket surface where the oil pan goes on cleaned up. We'll come back, we'll throw the oil pan on. Alright, I got that tacked on there. Ain't going nowhere. I got the block cleaned up to put the oil pan on. And then I remembered there's one more thing that I need to do before I put the pan on. And this, being a Vortec 86 and newer motor, has a one-piece rear main. Therefore, it's got this little plate on the back that you can unbolt, take that plate off, put a new rear main seal in it, bolt it back on. So while we got it apart, this motor's been sitting for who knows how long. We're going to go ahead and put a new rear main in it, along with basically every other gasket in the motor that we're replacing, and we shouldn't have to worry about any leaks. Okay, Alright, well that's a bigger bolt, so I gotta go get another wrench. And I'll get that off. We'll put a new mirror main in it, put it back on, and then we'll throw the oil pan on. Alright, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, on the 86 and newer throttle body motors up into the Vortex, they have this. It bolts onto the back of the block with these 4 bolt holes here. These are these 2 studs are your rear mount for your oil pan. And then there's this seal in here that goes around the crankshaft, and that's your rear main. Now on the older motors, they got a 2-piece rear main that sits inside there, and half of it's smashed between the block and the crank, and the other half is down between the crank and the oil pan. So those are extremely hard to change without taking a bunch of stuff apart. These are very easy. They come right off. They got little grooves in there. There's 3 of them. And you can stick a screwdriver in there and kind of pry a little bit. That seal will pop out. I've got a new seal kit with a new gasket. So I'm going to get this old seal pried out of there. I'm going to clean this very thoroughly, and then I'm going to tap my new seal in, and we'll stick it back on there with the new gasket and get it buttoned back up. Alright, I got the new rear main seal put in, got that all put back together, as you can see, and somebody stopped by and we're talking, and I just kept working while they were talking, and I got the oil pan on too. If you guys know me, you know I used the Felpro 1-piece gasket. Cleaned up all the bolts, got it put back on, got the motor moved over to the paint booth. So I'm gonna wipe the whole thing down really good with wax and grease remover and make sure I get anything loose or greasy or anything that I can off of here. And then there's one spark plug hole that doesn't have a spark plug in it. I got spark plugs laying around. I'll stick one of those in, or I'll stuff some paper towel in it or something. And then I'm gonna tape off all the exhaust ports and the snub of the crankshaft, and then I'll go through and I'll paint the oil pan and everything from the bottom. And then I'll roll the motor over and put my balancer on, put my water pump on, because they'll already be painted behind. And I'll put my balancer and my water pump on, and then I'll go ahead and paint that. I'll tape off all my intake ports in my valley, and I'll paint around the front of the heads and on top of the heads and all that stuff. So I got it all set up. I'll set the camera up and do a time lapse of painting it, but that's gonna be tomorrow, because I exhausted all of my allotted time for today. It's dinner time, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go home. So I'll be back first thing in the morning. We'll get that motor painted. Real quick, just thought of this. If anybody's thinking, why in the heck did he open that motor up and it's all grimy and dirty and everything else, and just clean it out, put new gaskets in it, and go back together with it? This is a throttle body 350. These are like 400,000 mile motors. I mean, I've had them go that far. I had a 91 Suburban that had a throttle body 350 in it, and it had 498,000 miles on it when the transmission finally lets go. These are good motors. I checked the bearings, I checked the cylinder walls. There's no broken pistons, nothing like that. And I know the motor's good. I could have left all the sludge and nasty and everything in it, because it was already in there and it was running like that at one time anyways. But if I clean a bunch of it out, flush the motor good, new timing chain, new oil pump, you know, all new gaskets, that's just extending the life of this motor, making it run better the way it is for longer. So that's how I like to do it. Everybody else might think different. They might think, oh, you got it out, you got it torn down, rebuild it. Well, I don't know if you've rebuilt a motor lately, but it's pretty costly, and there is nothing wrong with this motor. So if anybody's wondering why I'm polishing an old turd. That's why. Not really polishing an old turd. I checked it out thoroughly. It's a good motor. Just cleaning it up. We're going to paint it. We're going to clean up the rest of the truck, and everything's going to be good and look good. So we'll see you in a little bit. Well, some things are just kind of hard for me to explain. And this is one of them. So I left this motor sitting over there with no oil pan on it, no valve covers, no intake, all open, right side up, upside down, everything for like 6 days. And I figure, oh, it probably drained everything out of it that it's going to drain out of it, and we can clean it up and paint it. Well, then I moved it over here, let it sit overnight, and apparently it wasn't done draining everything out of it that it was going to drain out of it. So now I got a mess in my paint booth. But I guess we cleaned the engine out a little bit more. So now it should be all ran out. I'm going to show you guys a little trick that I use when I clean up and paint motors like this. And then we'll shoot some paint on it. Alright, just a little trick that I use that seems to work, or maybe I just like playing with fire. I'll let you guys decide. But I got the block all cleaned up as good as I could with brake parts cleaner and towels and scrapers and Scotch-Brite and everything else. So now what I like to do is I'll take my little torch here, and I don't have it cranked up. I just got it on a medium heat. But I'm just going to go around, and I'm staying away from all the gaskets. I don't want to burn any gaskets or anything. But if you just kind of work your way around the block, you'll see the metal is going to kind of get wet, and then it's going to get really dry. And what that's doing is, when you get it hot and it gets wet, it's pulling the oils and contaminants out of the block, and then you're burning them off. So I'm just doing that to get it nice and cleaned up and dry, so when I put new paint on it, I don't have oil and contaminants underneath the paint that's going to loosen the paint up and make it fall off. So just a little extra step in cleaning it up. I'm not turning the metal red, I'm not scorching it, I'm keeping the torch moving, just nice even heat. You kind of see it get wet, and then you see it dry off, and then you know you got the oil burn out of it. So it's always worked good for me. It's a little trick you guys may have never heard of before. But I mean, you don't have to do this all the time, but like on a block like this that was pretty dirty and didn't get hot tanked or anything, just helps get the metal clean. And just in case anybody's wondering, not hurting anything at all by doing this, because the little bit of heat that I'm putting on here, the engine temp gets hotter than this when it's running. So not hurting anything at all. Like I said, you just want to make sure you stay away from gasket surfaces, because you don't want to burn any gaskets. So I got my little heat trick all done. As you can see, it's really dry, clean. Wax and grease remover, my timing cover, and my oil pan. Make sure that was all clean. I got all my holes plugged with shop rags. And last thing I'm going to do is just stick a little piece of tape on here just to make sure we don't get paint spraying down in the inside the timing cover, which it wouldn't hurt anything really if we did, but I still don't want to. So I'm going to stick a little piece of tape on there. And then, are you guys ready to see what color the owner chose for this motor? You're about to find out. Alright, got the first coat on. We'll let it set up for a little bit. I'll come back and put at least one more coat on so it's nice and even. And then we'll roll the motor over. I'll put the balancer and the water pump on, and I'll shoot all that so it's all painted together. And we'll get her finished up. Alright, I got my intake all cleaned up and painted. First off, I got all the painting done on the block. Got my intake all cleaned up and painted. I put a little bit of silicone around the water jackets like I always do. Got my gasket stuck in place. I need to run a bead of silicone. Across the front and rear bridges here. I don't know what kind of silicone that is, but that's not the stuff I'm looking for. That's like water. Let me clean that off. I'll be right back. Alright, let's try this again. Okay, get our gaskets back in place again. Now we're ready to set the intake on. Alright, I'm not putting all the intake bolts in right now because there's a couple that are studs for brackets and stuff like that. So for right now, I'm just putting a few in to seat the gaskets and hold it on, and mainly because I want to get the motor sealed back up. Alright. We got our squish in the front and the rear. That's what I was looking for. We got a bolt holding it down in the middle. So that's sealed back up now. We're going to throw our new valve covers on and go from there. Alright. Got the new valve covers on, got the intake bolted down as far as it's going to be for right now. Everything's painted, and I guess I've been playing with you guys long enough. You ready to see what color it is? There you go. Bright red. Got some wrinkle coat aluminum valve covers. Got the intake all painted aluminum colored, looking good. Whole thing's clean, smooth, shiny. Paint turned out great. When I was going over this project with the owner of the truck and I asked him what color he wanted the motor, he said to make it match the stripe on the side. So if this was all buffed out and fresh looking, it'd be bright red. So we painted her bright red. That's what he wanted. That's what he gets. And this is a little strange for me because I have never in my life before ever painted a motor red, ever. Like, I know for a fact I have not. I don't know why. Not that I don't like them red or anything like that. I just personally have never done one. So to paint one red is something new. But once again, here it is. Everything's on and painted up. Now I'm gonna do like I normally do, and this will just sit over here and let the paint make friends with the block and, you know, cure up and dry and do all its little stuff that it wants to do. I've told you guys in the past, I've learned from experience that the longer you let them sit there with the paint on them before you put them in and start firing them up and stuff like that, the longer and better the paint holds up. So that's why I always go through and clean up the motor and get it painted first, and then go on and do the rest of the project and then put the motor back in last, because I've had very good results with paint jobs, you know, lasting and looking good and whatnot. So that's what we do. But that's gonna do it for this video. Please make sure you go check out www.harmongarage.net and get yourself some merch. Go check out thetruckgathering.com and look into going to that show. I'm sponsoring it. I'll be there with Rum Runner here. And thank you for watching. I appreciate all you guys. It means the world to me that you tune in and watch my videos. But if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.